Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Core Values Podcast. My name is Elliott Stanger, and on this episode we'll be talking to Matt Jermiason, co-founder of the Virtual Chamber Brass, a virtual ensemble featuring brass musicians from all over the country. Joining me are my co-hosts Ian Blagan and Ed Gunther, and we'll be talking about the challenges of collaborating in a post-coronavirus world and some of the unique experiences we've had while making music over the last few months. We hope you enjoy our interview with Matt Jermiason on this installment of the Core Values Podcast. Welcome back to the Core Values Podcast. My name is Elliott Stanger, and I'm here with my co-hosts Ian Blagan and Ed Gunther. And today we have a very special guest. We have Matthew Jermiason of the Virtual Chamber Brass. Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about the project. Obviously, the three of us already know kind of how things have gotten started with this project, but tell us a little bit more about what the Virtual Chamber Brass is, how it got started, and a little bit more about the project.
Yeah, so the Virtual Chamber Brass is a internet project, if you will, where brass musicians from all over many areas of the country come together via the internet to make music. So I helped start this with Ed. Ed I went to school with, and he just put up on his Facebook page, does anyone want to do virtual brass quintets? And of course, being somebody that always wants to do things, I immediately said yes. So after that, that's just kind of how the ball got rolling. And then I met you, Elliott, and then we started doing our first project of the Banco Single Leader, where it was just us three putting together a first project, if you will. And that's kind of how it started.
What kind of rep have we done so far?
Yeah, so currently we've been playing standard music. So the Banco Single Leader was our first that we produced, and then we moved on to a Gabrielli piece, Canzona number 4, and then we just recently did our Easter project, where it was very extensive with 10 musicians, I think 10 or 11. I can't remember. I think it's 10 musicians. Yeah,
it was pretty big. We really jumped up the numbers there from going from 3, where I think both of you, Ed and Matt, had to double a part, whereas I played just the one horn solo part in the Banco Single Leader. But yeah, then we jumped. The numbers got really big, and we had an Easter gig, so to speak, where we had upwards of 10 musicians playing. And we'll, of course, leave all of those links in the description of the video that you guys can check out below. Where do you see this going as far as, contracting musicians? Do you see us, kind of how are we going to branch out once the quarantine is over?
Well, I can talk a little to this. As far as when the quarantine is over, I don't know exactly what our plans are. We'll see where it goes. But as you said, we had 3 musicians on the first one, with us having to double parts because we couldn't find anybody. And then the next one, we had 5 doing the quintet, with a lot of people wanting to be a part of it. Then the Easter was 10, and a lot of people weren't able to do that just because we could only have 10. And now we have a personnel list that is really long, at least 24. So
oh wow,
it's really growing, and we're going to have more and more musicians from all over. And I think we're up to like 12 states or 13 states on the personnel list, and hopefully that'll continue to grow and reach all over the country. For future projects, we have the Renwick Dance, which we just recorded, and Ian's on that and Matt's on that. We have a lot of things in the works. There's a commission or 2 that might happen. There's a Beethoven piano sonata that I just arranged, and a lot of more bigger things. Ian just arranged the Mandalorian theme, Fanfare from La Paris. We have, 10 or 12 projects that we all want to do, but it's going to take a long time to get all those out.
Right. So in other words, we don't envision this stopping once the quarantine is over, correct?
Yeah,
I would say no.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely here to stay. At least while we're all on the project, we're all kind of eager to play music, and as long as people are willing to play music and that sort of thing, this will continue to exist. And I think the quarantine was a really cool opportunity for many musicians just to consider making music in their studio or bedroom or whatever, away from other musicians. I know that has been the case for me for sure. This has been a really cool opportunity for me to just play with people that I've never met before. Um, yeah.
Exactly. Like Matt, you and I have never met in
No,
person,
we've
right?
never met in person. I mean, I've seen your face a lot because I've been doing a lot of the video editing,
Right.
but no, we've never met in person.
And you've never met Ian, is that
That's
correct?
correct. I've never met Ian either.
Nope.
However, we've played at least 2 pieces together.
And then with you, Elliott, we've played 3. So we played the other 3 times, which is just kind of wild to me. That this is even a possibility to make music with musicians that I've never met. So I find that to be really kind of cool. And this is not a project that's going to be easily dropped because of that. And I think a lot of musicians do find value in making great music in whatever form that may take.
Yeah, I do think that's kind of the beauty of this project is you're making music with people you've never met before, and you're meeting people and expanding your network and being heard all the way across the country because they share it. I think it's a great project.
And we have a couple composers among us too. Ed, you said you composed a few things, or at least arranged a few things for this quintet. Ian, you've taken on a couple projects as well. Do you want to talk about some of the things that you're preparing for this project?
I really only had one to do so far, and that was the Mandalorian theme, and it took me a while to get done, and I've just been kind of taking a break after I finished that. But yeah, it was definitely an undertaking, and a couple times I didn't know how I was going to do it just because of the nature of the original score. There's so many electronic elements and non-traditional scoring techniques that getting it notated down for a brass ensemble was probably one of the most challenging things I've arranged so far.
You sent me the MIDI file of your arrangement, and I was super impressed. It sounds amazing. And like you said, it's going to be challenging to put together. But on top of that, we all have to play our parts individually and then have Ed and Matt sync these things up. So Ed, I'm going to throw it back to you, and Matt, I'll let you chime in as well. Can you guys talk about some of the different challenges that you guys have to face as you are putting these things together? For those of you that don't know, Ed does a lot of the audio mixing for these, and then we go back and re-record them with video, and then Matt puts all of these different video clips together for one collaborative YouTube video or Facebook video as we've been doing it. So Ed, do you want to start talking about some of the challenges with the audio and how you've been jumping over some of those hurdles?
Yeah, how much time you got? Well, there's a lot of challenges. First, I have to sync everything up to where it's happening at the same time. And then I asked for a bunch of takes. Sometimes 3 takes, I think, is a good number. I think I'm going to have to start not mandating, but like heavily requesting 3 takes. And then I splice them together, take the best of the best, and make what I call Frankenfile with a lot of crossfades, just the best thing. Then I export that to a program called Melodyne, which helps me fix a few pitch and time things, because not everyone plays their dotted 8/16 exactly the way the next guy plays dotted 8/16.
And that's hard to line up probably over the internet.
Yeah.
So when you're just playing your part with the click track and you don't have everybody else around you to listen and kind of feel rhythms out with, it's really hard to match exactly.
Yeah, and it's like, do you do the dotted half note off on 3, or do you like do it before? And so a lot of cutoffs are bad, so I just like time stretch individual notes just to make the cutoffs a little better. And attacks, I try to just move individual notes around, just making them, like we would perform it in real life. It's just impossible to do that over the internet. And I think it's really funny how a lot of people say, wow, that was really good. I didn't even realize that you edited that. I'm like, what, you think everyone just like came in at the same time?
That I think makes this whole process really, well, at least a little bit easier, is the fact that you send all of us a click track.
Yeah, so I like the click tracks I make. They're really, really cheesy drum grooves.
Definitely very cheesy, yes.
As cheesy as possible. But I try to make it so that everything can line up. I try to make the hi-hats close right on cutoffs of notes, so everyone has a clean cutoff together when you hear the hi-hat hit open and then shut.
And something else that I noticed is that sometimes you'll have like a full cymbal hit like on a letter. Like I can't remember which one it was that we did, but I was recording like a middle part, like an excerpt in the middle, and there was a cymbal crash right on like letter B or something like that. So even though I couldn't really scrub through the whole thing, as long as I heard that cymbal crash, I knew I was at B, and then I had like a bar and a half to get ready to play my part. So the way that you set those up, hats off to you. I think that those are really
Yeah,
great.
I try to, every rehearsal letter, I try to have a drum fill into it and then 2 cymbal hits right on the letter, just so everyone's in the same place. Because I had one person who was measure off. I had to send it back to re-record because I was wondering, it's like, why is the tempo so bad with this one? Because I had a lot of tempo changes on the drum track, and it's like, he's good for a while, and then it's just bad tempo. Like, he just missed the rallentando. What's going on? But he recorded a measure off.
I think my favorite part of any click track that you've done so far is the one we just did for the Easter gig, where the way you arranged and notated it, there was gaps between each section. So then we would just hear, and now it's time for letter B. And the first time I was practicing with the click track, I had to stop because I was laughing too hard to keep playing.
Yeah, and I think that was a mistake. There was a few mistakes that happened with the Christ Arose because I envisioned it as this super easy process where I had the 4 sections and there was a break in recording, so you didn't have to go straight from one section to the other. And then in post, I'll just squish the audio together and come out with that last track. But the error in my part was I had you guys video it still with the breaks in, and I was like, oh, Matt can just delete that and scrunch it all together and match my final audio, and it'll be fine. And maybe, Matt, you could talk about that, the challenges with video syncing.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, the video for many musicians is kind of foreign. I feel like not a lot of people are like learn how to video themselves properly. And
I'm guilty.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like my job in this is to teach musicians who don't, film themselves on audio. I feel like we do a lot of audio stuff, which is very important, of course. But the film part is very foreign to most musicians, and so my job is to kind of instruct on how to best get the best video quality and how to put a shot together and to make it look the best so that I can use it properly. And we're still learning with that. And I feel like as I get better as a video editor, I also get better as a teacher to instruct on how things got better. So like even from our first video, the video quality from both Elliott and Ed were much better. And that was really good. And as we gain more musicians, I'm going to have to teach our other musicians how to do it, because this is a lot of them where this is their first go at it. So I don't really hold it against them too much, but it does make my job easier when the video is at the top, the best quality, because I mean, I can only do so much on my end. And that's, for me, that's the challenge. The challenge comes with like, okay, I get all these video files and some of them are in different forms and different looks. And I can only do so much to make it look the best it can. And so it's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig sometimes, where it's like, I can only do so much with what I have available to me. So my job really relies on, okay, what can I do to instruct the musicians to film themselves properly? And so that my job can be more making everything else looked and more cohesive.
And as far as that goes, you posted, I think, 1 or 2 videos to our Facebook group for it that really helped, I think, explain this is how you need to set your camera up. This is what you need to do as far as lighting is concerned. Be conscious of what's in your background. All that kind of stuff was really good for people that don't record a lot. Speaking as one of those people.
Totally agree. And I'm one of those people, I consider myself pretty tech forward. And I have a lot of really great equipment, and I'm very fortunate that I have all these things. But up until when I met Matt, or at least, got to know Matt, I would use all my equipment and it would end up looking really subpar. And then I think it was right before we did Canzona, you had posted a video about how to change the settings on iPhones, and that, you can film in 4K. And that just opened up a whole new world of, tech for me that I was able to like say, oh, this is how those people whose videos that I watch all the time, this is how they get it to look so good. And that just, that was a big help. So I want to say thank you for that. And do you think that, musicians should be teaching these kinds of things either in a college setting or, maybe like create like an online masterclass that, you can help facilitate, musicians to get their creativity out there? I think that would be a great outlet for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that this is the virtual brass quintet is like a really cool opportunity for us to just learn how to do all of this with a practical way of just making music. So I like I said, like I'm really happy to hear that you've been able to learn through video and stuff, and I've been able to learn through audio with Ed and that sort of thing. And I hope that this experience, as we continue to make music online in our respective hovels, will continue to help us learn how to do this better, even past the quarantine. And for me, that's kind of what makes this really worth it to me.
Yeah, and like in the academic route, I don't know how many of you guys are like looking at the job postings and are in knee deep as I am in the academic route, but so many of these jobs say prepare students for the 20th century or 21st century, prepare students to have a career in the 21st century. And I think this is what they want, to be able to record yourself with good audio, with good video, put out content on the internet and social media.
Right. And that's something that we talked about, I think, on a previous podcast where, when you're recording yourself and you want to get that perfect recording, it's almost like you are on stage in front of a group of people and the pressure is on to get it right. And I think that doing these kinds of things, even if it's just yourself with a little USB microphone and your laptop, recording yourself, even if it's a bad take, and listening back to it is a great way to kind of self-diagnose some of your issues, or at least take it to your teacher and say, well, here's what I did yesterday. Can we dig through some of these recordings and figure out some things that I need to do better? That is a great way to prepare students for the 21st century, is just, putting themselves out there and seeing what the reaction is by people that they trust and people that will give them, good criticism, and maybe not YouTube comments where everyone's just gonna, pan them and say that they played like crap or something.
And here's the thing, Elliott, is you don't need a recording studio and you don't need a $3,000 Neumann U87 mic. You can have a $100 USB mic, and you can have your smartphone. Right. I mean, you don't need much. You can have a microphone that plugs into your phone. There's plenty of those, like small pencil condensers that plug into your phone. And
right. And honestly, the phone microphones are not that bad. If if you're at a college and you want to rent out your concert hall for an hour and set up your little iPhone on a tripod, that would be okay for posting on YouTube or sharing on Facebook. It's pretty decent just to have.
Yeah, and phone. Like, I think we're producing high quality content, and people have Zooms and cell phones, and that's what they're sending in, or cheap USB mics and cell phones. So you don't need this huge investment to make quality content. You just need a microphone and a little bit of audio editing skills.
Well, think about where the world was like 15 years ago as far as like cell phone technology. You know what I mean? Now everyone has a recording studio and a HD 4K video camera in their pocket. And I just think that that's such a, I think that that's a great thing for any kind of creator to be able to just pull out their phone, pull out their device, set it on a stand and make something new. It's such a great thing. And, a lot of people during this quarantine are taking advantage of that. And it's cool to see.
Yeah, it definitely lowers the barrier of entry, which is a great thing because so many more people can do it. Something that me and Matt are thinking about doing is creating a sort of how to record audio and how to record video as an instruction for like our musicians in the virtual chamber brass, but also something that we can put out publicly if people at home need to know how to do things even with limited equipment.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great idea.
And you could get different people, because obviously we all play different instruments almost, and so they all really should be mic'd differently to get the best recorded sound out of any of them. So we have, I think, somebody in every brass family, so we could definitely get 1-on-1 for each of those particular strategies.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind telling us, where can we find all of your content?
Sure, yeah. So you can check out my website, MatthewJermiason.com. I update that pretty frequently with any projects that I'm doing. If you want to check out my social medias, I'm most active on Instagram at MatthewJermiason_music. I'm also there on Facebook with the same title, Matthew Jermiason Music. Also, check out the Virtual Brass or Virtual Chamber Brass, because that is where kind of a lot of us are hanging out right now. So yeah, Virtual Chamber Brass is on Facebook right now. It's going to be an Instagram later, probably of some similar name, but we haven't put that together yet. But definitely our Facebook page, we can definitely check that out.
And we also do have a YouTube channel. It's also just called Virtual Chamber Brass. We haven't promoted it very much, but it is there to send links out in case people don't have Facebooks or Instagram.
Well, thanks again, Matt, for coming on our podcast. For my colleagues Ian Blagan, Ed Gunther, I'm Elliott Stanger. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.